Hey guys, and welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Natasha Martinez, and this is the daily show where we give you all the latest news in the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us today is Mark Ellis.
Welcome, one and all, to the best movie news show in the entire galaxy. My name is Mark, and on today's show, we have a whole bevy of movie news and a bevy of panelists on the panel that will be paneling, joining us here on the panel. Who do we got, Natasha?
Our first panelist on the panel is Dennis Tzeng.
Yeah, it's 7 a.m. Whose bright idea was it to start this early?
I don't know, but also joining us on the panel, Perri Nemiroff.
I'm going to try really hard today not to say the IT word. Damn it.
Oh, boy.
It's never going to happen.
Well, that was a failure. Also joining us, Jon Schnepp.
Party down, baby. That's right. Party down.
Hard sci-fi all over this program. Before we get to our first main story, to some really good news for Wonder Woman and Patty Jenkins fans, we have an announcement to make, and that would be, look, this 7 a.m. thing was a fun experiment to see how our East Coast viewers responded to it, how our West Coast and everybody around the world thought about the 7 a.m. start time. And then we did it, and then we're like, you know what, this is really early, and we don't think that it's going to be worth it to continue to get me up at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. to get into the makeup chair, and then get here and broadcast at 7 a.m. So we decided on the happy medium between the old and the new. This is breaking news, Adam. Cue the lights. Give me the drum roll. There it is. 9 a.m. PST is going to be the official new start time for Collider Movie Talk going forward from here to eternity. 9 a.m. PST. That's noon for all you East Coasters. Grab some lunch, watch Movie Talk live, and here on the West Coast, you can wake up with us a little bit later. I know I will, and I think I speak for everybody here. Thank God. All right, let's move on to our first official story, which will in no way affect us as much as what I just said. What do we got, Natasha?
Thanks to a report from Variety, Patty Jenkins has officially signed on to direct Wonder Woman 2 for DC Films and Warner Brothers. The trade reports that after an unusually lengthy and tough negotiation, the director closed a deal to not only direct, but also co-write and produce, making this a precedent-setting job and making Jenkins the highest-paid female filmmaker in history. Over at THR, their sources report that Jenkins will receive directing and writing fees in the high seven figures, landing somewhere between $7 and $9 million. And more significantly, Jenkins will also have a stake on back-end profits. Wonder Woman 2 is dated for release on December 13th, 2019. Mark, what do you think about Patty Jenkins' record-setting deal to helm Wonder Woman 2?
I think it's well-earned, and I think that Patty Jenkins is going to have a whole lot more than $7 to $9 million when it's all said and done, because we know how Hollywood works, and we know those points on the back end are what really kick your bank account into high gear. It did shock me that she was not locked down to a deal prior to this, and I think for her it's great news. And according to the reports, it was a long, tough negotiation process, which I never thought it should have been, but I think that the announcement now, everybody comes out winning. Certainly Patty Jenkins does, as well as Wonder Woman 2 from a project standpoint, and so does the studio, getting to say, hey, look at what we did. We now are the ones that made a woman the highest paid female to ever direct a movie. I think it's great news all the way around. I'm still a little surprised that it took this long for us to get to this point, but I think that it's good that we're here now. How do you feel about it, Perri?
I am just thrilled. I'm so happy that it's finally official now, because we spoke about it being in the works for so long, and it seemed like such a given to me that after the success of Wonder Woman, critically and at the box office, really, who else would they get to direct that movie that would put them in a position to make the most out of the second movie they possibly could? So like you, when I read that these negotiations were hard and they went on for a long time, like, why? Isn't it a no-brainer that you had to give her more money because she did such a good job on the first one? But, you know, like another story we're going to talk about today, this isn't going to happen, snap your fingers, and then it changes everything for female directors out there. But it sets a precedent, and it sets a good one. And now this is going to pave the way for other female directors out there to seize similar opportunities and actually make what they should.
Dennis, do you think part of the long and tough negotiation process was the fact that Warner Brothers, but maybe more so Patty Jenkins and her team, are just sitting back and watching the box office receipts continue to roll in? I mean, this movie was raking in cash week after week. It was not a typical typical comic book movie at all, where it comes out and opens big and then trails off. This thing just kept being relevant to the box office, so maybe that every week they go in and it just strengthens their negotiation play.
Yeah, definitely. I think that helped them a lot, and DC, Warner Bros. Probably kicking themselves in the butt because they only signed her to a one-film contract. So now she doesn't have to come back for a set amount, and she has more negotiating power. And like you said, with the box office so high and just keeps on going, she can do what she wants. And she, in some of Mark Riley's talking points, he mentioned that she was looking to match what Zack Snyder was making, and she should, because her movie that came out made more than any of the ones that he made for the DCEU, so why shouldn't she? And I think the most important thing is she's getting points on the back end, which is something that only top-tier directors get. You get actors who get that, who are top-tier, and only very small amount of directors that do, and she got it.
I've never gotten points on the back end for so much as a lemonade stand, but I imagine you make a whole lot of money doing it. Schnepp, you are a writer, you're a director, you're a creative type. What does this mean for the future of Wonder Woman 2 and Patty Jenkins?
Very excited for Patty. I think it probably took so long because she was coming at him with like 30 million. They were like, "Hey, easy." She's like, and then just sitting back waiting for their counter offers. What about 2 million? Nope.
What about 50 million?
Yeah, I know, right? So, I mean, that's negotiations are always a fun thing. They're not fun at all. So, very, very happy that she.
They're fun if you made a movie that keeps crushing and you're like, you see what's happening?
Right.
Yeah. You can come pay me anytime
very,
you want.
I'm very happy for her. I'm very happy to see that she's the highest paid female director. About time. So I think it's great.
You are nothing if not an artist, Jon Schnepp. So I want to ask you this question from a creative standpoint. Does it change your writing process, your directing process at all? If all of a sudden you just get showered with all this Scrooge McDuck level money? I mean, does it put more pressure on you to be a writer, to create this perfect story, or can you approach it with the same template that you had the first one?
Yes and no. I mean, money changes everybody. I mean, money equals freedom. So I think for a creative person like Patty Jenkins, I think that kind of money is going to allow her to be a little more fearless, to let herself be a little bit more creative. So I think this kind of money for her is a good thing. And it's a good thing for Warner Brothers, a good thing for DC, it's a good thing for Wonder Woman. So I think in that way, it's super awesome. And now she can buy some kind of crazy island too, on top of being creative. So
the only thing better than as a writer, the only thing better than going to Starbucks and opening your laptop and getting a good hour or two in is buying a Starbucks and owning it, and then being able to hire extras to sit there and feel like you're at a real Starbucks when you know full well you can go behind the counter anytime you want. Perri, Dennis, I think the DCU, it's never seemed they've had a clear direction that they've been course correcting. Is that going to affect the writing of Wonder Woman 2, or do you think it's pretty much now you're paying Patty Jenkins all this money to create the story and write the script? Do you think that it's up to her to decide where we go with this?
I think along with that money, they probably gave her a lot more creative freedom. It's probably in the contract where she's going to get a lot more free reign to do what she wants, because what she did in the first one generated money, and that's really what they care about. And I think they also avoided a PR disaster. Imagine if they didn't get Patty Jenkins back, and in the next movie, either quality-wise or box office-wise, doesn't succeed on the same level, then where's everyone going to point to? They're going to be like, you guys didn't spend the money to get back Patty Jenkins. You hired blah, 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 and now the DCEU has suffered for this. So I think it's a PR disaster that WB has avoided.
Perri, what do you think?
It's funny to think about that, too, because back when she was first brought onto the project, I was really excited about the news, but at the same time, did you ever think that we'd be saying right now it would be a PR disaster and they would wind up taking just as many steps back as they took forward if Patty Jenkins didn't come back? I mean, this is just the coolest scenario that she earned. So I think that with franchises like this, and it's very clear with DC right now in particular, is that they learn something from every single move they make. I think we're going to get a better understanding if they really learn from Wonder Woman when we see Justice League and when we see everything that comes after that. So there's no doubt in my mind that she's going to be worth the money because experience. She did it once, and when you asked that question to Schnepp, I was kind of playing it through in my mind, and I can only answer that from my own perspective. And as much as I want to see that money and think, oh, I have all the creative freedom in the world, in my brain, I'm like, oh, they have even more faith in me now. I'm nervous. I hope she does not take that mentality. I'm only thinking about myself when I answer that. But hopefully she seizes that opportunity. She gets more creative. And hopefully they trust her in addition to giving her all that money.
Yeah, and I got to think that Patty Jenkins has 100 great ideas to infuse Wonder Woman 2 with already. And it's something where you know that this deal is going to happen, or at least you hope it will, and your team is telling you, don't worry, we're getting closer, it's going to happen, and you're already formulating thoughts for what you want to do with this franchise. So I think we can all be very excited about the future of Wonder Woman. And, you know, Natasha, sometimes you speculate with a director that's going to be doing a sequel, and we figure, yeah, they definitely are going to sign on for that. Then other times you have a director that seems like they would be the incumbent, but then maybe they're not going to do the sequel. So what's our next story about?
Well, it appears that Rian Johnson has taken himself out of the running to direct Star Wars Episode 9, at least for now. In a news conference in Japan promoting The Last Jedi, Johnson said he isn't planning to direct Episode 9, nor had he ever planned to helm the follow-up, saying, "It was never in the plan for me to direct Episode 9, so I don't know what's going to happen with it for me. I was entirely focused on Episode 8 and having this experience. Now I'm just thinking about putting the movie out there and seeing how audiences respond to it. So no, I'm not really thinking about that right now. Whoever does it, I'm going to be really excited to be an audience member again and to sit down and see what the next filmmaker has to show us and where this story ends up going." Dennis, do you believe Rian Johnson is not interested in directing Episode 9?
Not at all. There's no way that he's not interested in directing Episode 9. I think he's saying that he's playing coy because, one, another director had just recently, I mean, supposedly mutually, like, you know, split apart, but really it's more like the studio let him go. So I don't think he wants to seem like so eager to like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. He's the logical choice. There's no way that they haven't been talking to him about taking over. I think he probably wants to do it, but then, you know, just wants to see maybe schedule wise and also money wise. They're probably gonna, you know, throw some money to him, and as long as The Last Jedi isn't a piece of crap, which I don't think it is, given his track record with Brick, Looper, and Brothers Bloom, I think they want him back. And so I think he's just, you know, if you ever listen to Rian Johnson, he's very smart, thoughtful. He's not someone that's going to be, you know, super, like he's not going to be like, oh, Last Jedi is the best movie ever, I should do the next one. I think he's probably still negotiating.
Yeah, Perry, in any story like this, there's things that we know, there's things that we think we know, and then there's things we're going to speculate about because we want to know them. And here, the knowledge that we have as of right now is that somebody got fired from Episode 9 last week, and that Rian Johnson, if nothing else, did the classy move by not saying, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. You know, that's up to Lucasfilm. That's up to Kathleen Kennedy and company to make those kind of announcements. It is not for Rian Johnson to say, well, yeah, I mean, I think I would think about it. We're not there yet. This is a pretty fresh wound in the Star Wars galaxy. The things that we think we know are things that we've been hearing, that The Last Jedi had a flawless, perfect, everybody had an amazing time making that movie. Creatively, Rian Johnson's vision was in perfect alignment with what Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy had wanted all along, and that we're going to have a great picture on our hands come mid-December. And then what we assumed is that, well, if that is the case, why wouldn't Rian Johnson want to come back? Here's a thought. Maybe it's fun to leave them wanting more. Maybe it's fun to make a kick-ass Star Wars movie that takes us to different places and opens up a whole new vault of mythology, and then you drop the mic and you get out and you say, somebody follow that because I ain't doing it anymore. I could see Rian Johnson doing that. I could also see him being very interested, like Dennis is talking about, and say, I just am not ready to make this announcement yet because that's not my job. How do you feel about this?
I think it's because my mind has been conditioned to think of Star Wars at this point in time being one film per director, just because that's how they've been planning it out. And that's also how I envisioned Rian Johnson working as a director. I obviously know nothing about his deliberate intentions and what he really wants in his career, but knowing his past films and how different they are and how he jumps from different kind of story to a different kind of story, I always thought of him making Episode 8 and then moving on, and not just because someone was already in the director's chair on the next project, but yeah, when we found out that Trevorrow was off the movie, my mind immediately went to Rian Johnson, because especially right now, he's like way up here, and a whole bunch of directors involved in the Star Wars film franchise are not anywhere near that. So yeah, it made me think that he's a possibility. Reading into these quotes though, so yes, he's in a position where it's not right on a number of levels, because Lucasfilm definitely has a lot of control over what he says and what he's allowed to say. There's also just respect for Colin Trevorrow. I mean, that'd be a pretty dick move for him to walk around and be like, yeah, I want his job. That'd be terrible. So it makes sense to me when he said that first block of text in the quote, where it takes it a step too far and makes me think that he really might pass on that opportunity, because, yeah, in my mind, I think someone's crazy to say no to another Star Wars movie, but also these things are a crazy commitment, and for all we know, he has another project he's really passionate about and wants to make in the future. But when he says that he's really excited to be an audience member again, that's like I was reviewing a show recently where someone said in a line of dialogue, like, yeah, no, don't worry, nothing's going to happen to you. Like, why would they say to you if they didn't know something was going to happen to someone else? So
Right.
why would he go that far if he didn't mean it?
Yeah, Schnepp, I'll put it in your wheelhouse and make a sports analogy. This is like you just won the Super Bowl, and you have all these emotions, and you're a little tired. You're holding up the trophy, and you're thinking, this is a pretty good way to retire right now. And then you start to rest, and you start to hang out with your family and play golf, and you're like, I really miss football, and I need to get back in there. So do you think that Rian Johnson is just kind of in between the directorial mood, that he needs to just regain some energy and some desire to make a new movie? Because there has been speculation that he already had a treatment for what Episode 9 would be. Wow. So I think that this is something he's clearly capable of doing. Do you think it's going to happen?
No, I don't. I think Rian Johnson's smart to be the Irvin Kershner of the middle trilogy.
There we go.
I feel like, you know, he's in the pole position to say yay or nay, and I think it's smarter to say nay and let someone else take the reins of that third Star Wars movie. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of capable directors out in our world right now who would do an incredible job at directing whatever this third movie is. They've already hired a brand new writer to take over, rewriting the script from Colin and his friend who are writing I think it was the Jurassic World team of writers who were working on the screenplay. Now a brand new writer's doing a new take on it. I don't think they're going to hire Ryan to come back in and do another take on top of this writer's take that they just hired. I think they're moving along, and I think it's a smart move for him to say, I want to be an audience member, just like JJ passed the baton to him and said, I kind of regret not doing this second movie, but, you know, Ryan's got it. So I'm excited to see another filmmaker take over, and I haven't seen The Last Jedi yet. So The Empire Strikes Back is one of my favorite Star Wars films, and it's mainly because of Irvin Kershner and his influence as a director, along with the storyteller George Lucas. So I feel like the greatest combo comes with those kind of unexpected matchups. You only get that once in a while to be able to do that with a Star Wars movie. I want to see someone else.
Yeah, I think that, you know, Rian Johnson, unfortunately, I don't think he's in the same boat as Patty Jenkins from a negotiation standpoint, because we have a release date for Episode 9, and you know Lucasfilm, given their recent history with Star Wars and directors, wants to stick to that release date, whoever they hire. So he might not have time on his side as far as like, look at what my movie did, you know, back up the dump truck full of cash. I think that they are going to work it out. I think that they'll have conversation. I think that Rian Johnson will end up being the director of Episode 9, but I've been wrong before. Lots of times. Lots and lots of times I've been wrong. Maybe this is going to be one of them. All right, let's move on to opening this week. Hey, a movie's coming out in theaters this weekend, Natasha.
Yeah.
What is it?
American Assassin is coming out this week. Whee! When Cold War veteran Stan Hurley takes CIA Black Ops recruit Mitch Rapp under his wing, they receive an assignment to investigate a wave of random attacks on both military and civilian targets. After discovering a pattern of violence, Hurley and Rapp join forces with a lethal Turkish agent to stop a mysterious operative who wants to start a global war.
Wow, that sounds intense. And I got a chance to see this movie a while ago. And we're still in embargo for the movie, but I'll tell you, I got to see the movie at the iPic Theater in Westwood. Holy God, that place is amazing. You can recline the chairs. They bring you food. I mean, I guess people have this experience at theaters. I don't. I just go to the AMC across the street, sit down, just get popcorn. But I was treated like a king. And I guess I can't say if I liked American Assassin, but Michael Keaton, Dylan O'Brien. Dylan O'Brien, man, he's an actor to keep your eye on, because he comes from the world of like the Maze Runners and those kind of movies, but he really can give a good performance, and he's still that kind of actor that can show you something new along the lines of what we got from Robert Pattinson with Good Time or The Rovers. So I think Dylan O'Brien is one to keep your eye on, and that Michael Keaton, he's simply one of my favorite actors of all time. So I think this is definitely a cool action movie to be looking forward to. Perri, you have seen the movie. We're not supposed to talk about it. What can you say into that microphone?
I can say that I did not see it in a fancy iPic theater like Mark Ellis.
It was
Apparently,
so
I'm not
good.
special enough. Fine. But I did see it in good company last night. And I'm just going to say something that I would have said had I not seen it last night. And that's, I'm really excited about Dylan O'Brien as an actor. I'm a big fan of that first Maze Runner movie. And I think that he took it to another level and made it a movie where, even though I like that young adult material, I could take that movie to other people who might not and say, you will like this movie. And it's because he brings like a different level of depth to it. And he's really good in everything I've seen. If you've never seen First Time, a movie he did with Britt Robertson, it's great. Deepwater Horizon too. He's someone you definitely want to keep an eye on. And of course, the source material for this is best-selling, beloved, everything. So check it out if you want to.
Yeah, Dennis Schnepp, if I was going to levy a comparison for American Assassin, I might say The Accountants is a good one. Do you guys have any interest in checking this movie out, or are you going to wait for The Mother?
I think, well, I am going to go see Mother tonight. I'm a huge fan of Darren Aronofsky. But with this film, the first thing I think I saw Dylan O'Brien in was The Internship. Wasn't that Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson comedy?
The Google movie?
Yeah, the Google movie that like seemed to have come out like 10 years too late. But on paper, when I first heard about this movie, I wasn't that interested just because of it's a generic name, American Assassin. But then you see Dylan O'Brien's in there. You see Michael Keaton's in there. Taylor Kitsch, I think, is in there as well. And then I watched the trailers, and it seemed much more. It didn't seem. I was afraid that it was going to be kind of more of a lighter fare, like something like not lighter, but kind of one of those action movies that was just try to be a little glossy and a little, I don't know, lighthearted. But this actually seemed a bit more serious, more like trying to be like a Bourne movie. So after seeing the trailer, I'm actually more interested in seeing it.
Schnepp, you going to the theater this weekend for Double A?
I'm going to see Mother this weekend.
Mother!
And then I might see American Assassin. I like the trailer. I mean, anything Michael Keaton is in, I'm usually going to see because he's a great actor. And then this trailer, this movie reminds me of The Punisher. It's basically like, family torn away, gonna train and become a killer. But, this is, I guess, quote-unquote legal because it's an assassin for America. So go kill somebody. I don't know. But the trailer's really well put together. Obviously, you guys can't talk about the movie, but I want to see it in iPic. I guess that's the way to screen a movie now, is in not IMAX, iPic. Right?
It's not the way to screen a movie. It's the way to live. I want to move in. I'll bring the tent. You guys don't have to worry about me. I'll be quiet and keep to myself. In the words of a great man, it's showtime. All right, let's move on to buy or sell. This is a part of the show where Natasha is going to give us a premise. We'll say whether we buy it or sell it, and sometimes it involves Stan Lee yapping, which is always a good topic. What do we got?
Stan Lee was recently speaking at a panel during Wizard World Nashville. This comes from a report from AIPT, where he revealed that none other than Leonardo DiCaprio would like to play the Marvel icon in a biopic about his life. Lee said, "Believe it or not, I've already discussed it with Leonardo DiCaprio. He's a neighbor of mine, and we were talking one day some months ago, and he said, 'Boy, it'd be fun to do your story on the screen.' So I said, 'Well, I'll audition you. Got to make sure the guy can do it.' He has all the walls covered with big Marvel posters and everything. He's got very good taste." Schnepp, a buy or sell Leonardo DiCaprio playing Stan Lee in a biopic of his life, and could this actually happen?
Man, I totally buy this. It's always fun to hear, like, some of these, like, super nerd, like Leonardo DiCaprio's got Marvel stuff everywhere in his house. And he would be great as Stan Lee. I mean, he's got that, I can't remember how old he is right now, but he's got that cherubic face where he could, with a little bit of makeup, play like Stan Lee when he was 16 in the newsroom of Timely, back when he was working for Jack Kirby, getting him coffee and stuff. And then, literally, Stan Lee has gone through every single decade of comic books, as we went through the 50s, as we went through the Comics Code, into the 60s when he was in his 40s when he created the Fantastic Four. It's literally, he had given up. He felt like, I'm a loser, and then he came up with this entire universe called the Marvel Universe, now the Cinematic Universe. Stan Lee is a legend for a lot of us comic fans, so it's great to hear someone of Leonardo's acting caliber talk about wanting to portray him, I think it's great.
I just wonder what the conversation was. I mean, if you're neighbors, it could have been Stan Lee going to Leo's house and being like, hey, can you keep your supermodel party music down a little bit? I'm trying to get some Z's over here. It could have been them taking the trash out together and Leo like, hey, you're the guy. Yeah, I'd love to play in a movie sometime. So I don't know what the extent of the conversation was. However, Leonardo DiCaprio is a great actor, and he's very good at portraying anybody he so chooses to do. So him playing Stan Lee is very interesting. I think you could have a lot of fun making this movie because you could have a great combination of live action and artistry telling the story of Stan Lee and also the story of Stan Lee's characters. There's very rarely will you say there's a better option on the table than Leo DiCaprio. If he's interested in playing him, I think Stan Lee is right to say, I'll audition him. I'm not going to buy that this is happening, but I think it's a cool story. How do you feel, Dennis?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I would love to see Leonardo DiCaprio play Stan Lee. Would it actually happen? I don't know. I'm not sure about. But I just like this story. It's like, oh, their neighbors was like Leonardo DiCaprio and Stan Lee both taking out the trash at the same time. And they were like, hey, neighbor, hey. Oh, yeah, it'd be great to play you in a movie. Okay, cool. Or was it Stan Lee, walking over to Leo's house, peering through the window? I mean, how does he know that he has all these, I don't imagine that Leo's house and Stan Lee's house are these small little houses that are side by side, right? In order to see through his window to see that he has all this Marvel stuff, he's got to be pretty close. So I don't know if he just like kind of old man wandered over there and just like started peeking through the window. Hey, Leo, and then they had this conversation.
Yeah, they're not neighbors like what I grew up having neighbors. Like they're not borrowing each other's lawn equipment.
Yeah.
They're having conversations. They might be neighbors. They might live on the same street on Coldwater Canyon, which is like a mile away from each other. Maybe they had a meeting. I don't know how it went down. Perri, are you buying or selling Leo playing Stan Lee?
I think all I could buy right now is the idea of a sitcom featuring Leonardo DiCaprio and Stan Lee where they're neighbors and Stan Lee just like pops up over the fence, Home Improvement style. Like, you want to make a movie together, buddy?
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty
love
sure
that
I just
concept.
solved the answer to this whole thing. They should work together. Really, I think anybody out there with anything that's a good project should pick up Leonardo DiCaprio because anything that his name is attached to, I'm going to get excited about because I have never, I was just trying to think of an example right now. I've never seen him give anything less than a fantastic performance. And, if we do ever get a Stan Lee movie, I want someone of his skill level to be able to play him.
That's absolutely correct. Okay, before we go on to the next buy or sell, I like days like this, and the fact that we were lucky enough to catch this during the 7 to 7:45 block of Movie Talk is pretty lucky. So, Adam, what I'm going to need you to do, since you teased me with the breaking news thing earlier, you're going to need the breaking news thing. Once again, dim the lights, give me a drum roll, because we do have some breaking news right now. And I know that a couple stories ago I said that I think Rian Johnson is going to be directing Episode 9, and I said I had been wrong before. And it would appear that I was wrong again because, according to Deadline, in this breaking news, Rian Johnson decided to not take the offer to come back and direct Episode 9. So now Disney and Lucasfilm are looking at another director for Episode 9, and it would be the one who made The Force Awakens. J.J. Abrams is the guy that they are currently in negotiations with. Sources are saying they're trying to work out a deal for him to return, and that this is expected to happen today. Now, obviously, we know the success that J.J. Abrams had with The Force Awakens, bringing Star Wars back into the consciousness, by far the biggest domestic opening weekend in history. So right now, he's in discussions, and we're not sure if that is going to get solved today, when that will get resolved, if this is going to come to pass, but the tea leaves are strongly pointing towards J.J.'s way. I hear this news, and I'm thrilled about this, because J.J. is a guy that has been proven to helm a Star Wars movie to make it fun, which is what I want Episode 9 to be. We can get as dark as we want with Episode 8. I want Episode 9 to have a nice, happy ending. I want as many people as possible to be able to walk off into the sunset and high-five each other. I know that's not what everybody wants out of a Star Wars movie, but J.J. Abrams, I think, is a great choice to bring home the franchise that he had a big hand in relaunching. Perri Nemiroff, you're the one that alerted me to this breaking news. Thank you very much for realizing that I still wasn't on Slack and texting that news story to me. How do you feel about this?
Isn't it handy to have a computer on the desk?
Yeah, I might have to get Slack after this.
Yeah. So I can't say that I'm thrilled, but it's because, you know, if this report had said Ava DuVernay is going to direct it, then I would be thrilled because I'd kind of be caught off guard. This, though, I think is a smart choice, and I'm happy to hear that they went this route. And clearly the passing of the baton from J.J. Abrams to Rian Johnson worked really well because that relationship seemed to have panned out. Lucasfilm, again, seems to be really happy with how Ep 8 is turning out. So it would make sense that it'd be a nice, smooth transition going from 8 to 9 and going from one director back to the other. So I think this is a smart move. I hope that the deal pans out and we could just firmly assume now that we have J.J. Abrams for Episode 9 because I don't want any more director switches in the Star Wars film franchise.
That's right. I think if nothing else, this is a very safe choice, Dennis. I think it's, again, you have somebody who's been proven to have success with Star Wars, so why not let them come back as opposed to bringing in a new director if for no other reason that Lucasfilm might be a little skittish about bringing on somebody who has not made a Star Wars movie before because recently that has not worked out so well. Is that how you see this move?
Yeah, it's definitely a safe play. I think it's. I was totally wrong with what I said. Like, what was it, 10 minutes ago?
Dude, did you see what I did?
Yeah, about Rian Johnson. So I think Rian Johnson was probably their first choice, and then since he passed, then JJ was obviously the second one. Look, I'm not a Force Awakens hater. I enjoyed that film. I like what JJ did with it. I do have mixed feelings about this news because in my mind, and Perri talked about passing the baton. When you do the baton race, you don't pass it back to the guy that handed it to you, you know? So like I feel like you should, you know, I would have preferred that JJ had done 7 and 8 and then Rian Johnson had done 9. I think it is a little more weird where it's like JJ did 7 and then Rian Johnson did 8 and then now it's passed back to JJ. So that's my feelings. I'm still going to look forward to the movie. I just had hoped that Rian Johnson would have continued what he did with Episode 8.
It actually already is official. So StarWars.com just posted the official announcement with a quote from Kathleen Kennedy that says, "With The Force Awakens, JJ delivered everything we could have possibly hoped for, and I am so excited that he is coming back to close out this trilogy." So it's official. He's a director.
I said that on Monday, Movie Talk. I was like, you know who should be directing Episode 9? J.J. Abrams. What's up, son? Pass the baton back. I thought, like, hey, he was on record saying, man, I wish I was directing Episode 8. It's weird to give this away because I love Star Wars so much. So I'm so happy. I mean, you know, we've talked a lot about JJ's mystery box and the way he opens up all these questions, then kind of walks away. Well, now he gets to come back and close the box. I think that's great. Someone else is helping him close the box with the screenplay and everything. But he's such a good director. I'm very excited about
this.
Yeah,
and you know, I see in the comment section a very mixed response to this news, as you might expect, that there's a lot of fan fervor around the announcement of a new Star Wars director. But I would remind you just this, is that I think whatever you want to say about The Force Awakens, you can say it was a rehash of A New Hope, which I think is a stupid thing to say, but I understand the comment. But I also think that a guy like J.J. Abrams is smart enough and is working with a team here that this is not a situation where a director is going to go off and make his own movie. This is not, we gave George Miller $80 million, got really lucky with Mad Max Fury Road. This is a collective. That's what Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy are. They're a collective of storytellers, and recently, new storytellers they brought in have not jived with what their vision is. This is not just J.J. Abrams' vision that he's going to be putting on screen in Episode 9. This is a collective unit's vision that they want to give to Star Wars fans. So whatever you think were the biggest problems with Force Awakens, whether Chewie should have given Leia a hug at the end, or whether he should have killed Han with railings, maybe a spoiler alert there. And then if Captain Phasma wasn't in it, whatever your complaint about The Force Awakens is, maybe this guy who made, in my opinion, a really good film can learn from those mistakes and do an even better job with Episode 9. I always like to think on the sunny side of life, and I like to be optimistic about these kind of things. Am I crazy for speculating that maybe J.J. Abrams can look at what he did with The Force Awakens, take a step back, take a deep breath, and say, next time I can do that better?
Not at all. It was exactly what I said with Patty Jenkins. Why, even more so, she's worth the money, because really, whether you're talking about an individual, you're talking about a collective, or a studio, everybody learns from what they did in the past, and it can only make J.J. Abrams a stronger director on Episode 9, having worked on Episode 7, and then whatever little bits he saw and worked with on with Rian Johnson on Episode 8. So, I don't know. I'm like, the more we talk about it, the more I'm warming up to the idea, and the more comfortable and confident it makes me in closing out this trilogy the right way.
Dennis, how do you
Well, it's not
feel about the official announcement?
It's not a big surprise, just because when JJ left 7, he had talked about before taking on episode 7 that he was going to take a long vacation and a long break from it. He had promised his family, and there was only one thing that could have stopped him from doing that, and that was Star Wars. So I have a feeling that he probably asked his wife and his family, he's like, look, this is Star Wars. I've got to at least do the first. I think he probably wanted to do all 3. But he was like, can I please at least just do this one? After he did that, he probably reluctantly gave it up. And so now that he's probably, got a little break, got a little more refreshed, now he gets to come back to the franchise. So hopefully he's just as enthusiastic as he was before.
That's right. We are going to have a lot more coverage on the brand spanking new announcement that J.J. Abrams is going to be directing episode 9, taking over from episode 8's Rian Johnson, and that coverage is going to include a vid later on today with our own Christian Harloff, the host of Collider Jedi Council, and Ken Knapsack. That is also breaking news I just got from a text from Christian. He's not as enthused as I am about the J.J. Abrams news, so wait for that vid to drop a little bit later on today on Collider Video. All right, sorry for the detour, everybody. Let's move on to our last buy or sell of the day. Let's talk some Hellboy, Natasha.
All right. THR is reporting that recently departed Hawaii Five-0 star Daniel Dae Kim is now in negotiations to join the cast of Lionsgate and Millennium's Hellboy reboot. Kim will take over the role recently vacated by Ed Skrein after Skrein openly resigned after the outcry over whitewashing an Asian American character. Kim will play Major Ben Damio, a rugged military member of the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense who, due to a supernatural encounter, can turn into a jaguar when angered or in pain. The Descent director Neil Marshall will be at the helm of the new reboot, with a release date yet to be determined. Perri buy or sell Daniel Dae Kim taking over for Ed Skrein in Hellboy.
Big buy on this. Daniel Dae Kim is a fantastic actor. I think this production is lucky to have him, but clearly the bigger story here is what just happened with this film. And this is the other story that I was talking about with setting a strong precedent. It does not mean that in a flash, all of a sudden, we're not going to have this issue with whitewashing. But this is just one of the best step forwards I ever could have imagined. Even more so for this than the step forward that Patty Jenkins took, which felt really organic and natural given her success. This was an actor, Ed Skrein, of course, who... it's not like he had Deadpool. He wasn't the biggest name in the world, and this project would have served him well, more so than they needed him. But he took it upon himself to say, no, this is wrong. You guys should do this. And thankfully, they listened to him. I mean, they really would have been shooting themselves in the foot had they recast with someone who did not match the ethnicity of the role. So I'm just so happy to hear that this actually isn't Ed Skrein's project anymore. It put him in a great light. It makes me respect him even more than I did before. And now it makes me even more excited for Hellboy on 2 different levels, one that I never even expected I'd get.
That's right. The character is, I believe, Japanese-American. Daniel Dae Kim is Korean-American. But the fact that you cast an Asian-American character in this role instead is probably something that I think, in retrospect, the Hellboy producers would have wanted to have done in the first place. But let's put that aside for a second. Daniel Dae Kim is a really good actor. Yeah. He's fantastic in everything I've seen him in. And then when you involve the politics, Dennis, this is also a guy who, along with Grace Park, left a very popular TV show, a nice steady gig for a working actor, because of a salary dispute. Him and Grace Park departed that show because they weren't getting paid as much as their co-stars. So to have that person who took that bold of a stand publicly, now playing a role where we just had this issue come up again from a different perspective, I think it makes all the sense in the world. And let's just not forget, once again, that Daniel Dae Kim is going to be very good in this part.
Yeah, I definitely buy him taking over. And you're right, it's a great move by the film, because people criticizing Ed Skrein's casting, and he rightfully stepped down. That was a no-win situation for him. Had he proceeded, there would have been tons of criticism on his part, and it just wasn't really worth it to him. So now he steps down, and Daniel Dae Kim steps in there, and he takes a situation which, he stood up for himself and lost a job, and then now he's able to turn that around into getting into something pretty cool, a big motion picture. And I think, I like him from Lost. I like him from Hawaii Five-0. So let's see what else they do with this movie.
Jon Schnepp, how do you feel about this news?
It's good casting. You know, his name came up a lot of times as far as when we were all speculating about Namor the Submariner. We're like, man, he would be great as Namor. So I'm happy to see him join some superhero film, and I think the casting of him in Hellboy is great. So, you know, that's a wrong that's been righted in many, many, many different ways. So I think it's fantastic.
All right. Well, we want to remind you guys that this is not the only show on Collider Video's YouTube channel. It's definitely not the only time you're going to hear some Star Wars news. Today, we also have Team Schmoedowns dropping every day this week, and that's all leading up to the big singles final match this Friday. Make sure you do not miss that. We also have comic book shopping with Jon Schnepp, plus Daily Heroes, so he's a very busy boy, as is Josh McCouga hosting Daily TV Talk. It's going to be going up a little bit later on right here today. Also, check out Jeremy Johnson's show, Awesome Tacular. You can watch it on the Go90 Network. There's new episodes every Friday, or for the most recent one, you can just check the link in this vid's description. So what we're going to do is we're going to issue mailbag today because we had a pretty good thing that we just talked about that was extemporaneous. But I would like to throw it quickly to a couple live Twitter questions just to see what the kids are talking about today, Wendy. Is there anything on anybody's mind in particular?
Maybe a hi, Mark. Well, it may be about the Disaster Artist trailer that dropped this morning. A couple of you saw it, so what are your thoughts?
The Disaster Artist trailer came out, and Perri and I were lucky enough to, get here on time at 4:15 a.m. or whenever we're supposed to be here. I really loved this trailer. It's a full trailer for the Disaster Artist. So Schnepp, Dennis, you guys have not seen this yet. I've not seen The Room yet. I love this trailer. I love the way that it sets it up like this underdog story where, Perri, there's definitely winks and nods making fun of just what a crazed dreamer that Tommy Wiseau is, but it also, it just feels like you're going to be rooting for this person more than just having a laugh at him, which I think is a credit to the movie.
I was really wondering if they were going to be able to achieve that just in a trailer, because I know the film has already premiered at a couple festivals, and it's getting good reviews, but I wanted to see that in the trailer, because even though I've seen The Room, I'm not someone who watches and rewatches it and continues to laugh at it, but I wanted a movie that did reflect the fact that so many people, I mean, it does have a cult following, so many people enjoy laughing at it, but at the same time, you kind of want to be in on it as well. And the trailer crosses that line at the perfect time where at first you're sitting there and you're like, what's wrong with this dude? And then by the end, especially with his relationship with Dave Franco, you feel it. Whatever was there and whatever's driving them, it's kind of infectious and you get really excited and you could start to see that this movie also has heart.
Dennis, the Disaster Artist, is this on your must-see list this fall?
Yeah, definitely. I have seen The Room. I think it's, it's one of those kind of cult phenomenons that's happening. I actually met Tommy Wiseau at one of those Comic-Con things, and he seemed like a pretty nice guy. Yeah, and from what I've seen so far, I haven't seen this trailer, but I've seen the other trailers, and it seems like it's capturing the spirit. Obviously poking a little fun at him, but not at the same time, like, so mean-spirited. Like, there's going to be show a little bit of his heart and his charm.
Jon Schnepp, you know that I've not seen The Room. You also are painfully aware that I've not seen Blade Runner yet. I got one movie to watch while I'm in Philly this weekend. Which one should I take in?
See The Room, dude. I don't think you'll like Blade Runner.
Come on, man.
I'm not going to give you that.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you that. You should see The Room. You know what? I got a football signed by Tommy Wiseau. I got a script signed by Tommy Wiseau.
Signed a football for you?
Yeah, a football. He sells the weirdest stuff at his Comic-Con. If you ever are at a comic convention that Tommy Wiseau is at, go up, get a picture with him. I got a crazy satin jacket with "You're tearing me apart, Lisa" on the back with his weird face screaming. If you haven't seen The Room, that's what I'm saying. If you haven't seen The Room, do yourself a favor, but I wouldn't see it. Maybe I'll take it back because you should see it with a group of people.
Yeah, you definitely should see it with a group of people.
Okay. Just seeing it by yourself in your hotel room is not the kind of experience that you want when you're first seeing The Room. You want to see it with a lot of people.
Well, we still need to do that commentary.
I'm happy.
We
to
should
do
do a
whatever you
live.
guys
We should do
want.
a live commentary with a group of fans.
I
That's what we
kind of want to
should
see
do.
the disaster artist first, though, and then see The Room.
No, you should see The Room with a bunch of people making fun of it to get why the disaster artist even got made.
All right, if they don't have any Room screenings in the Philadelphia area this weekend, then I guess it's going to be me and the director's cut of Blade Runner.
The directors.
And,
The final cut. Final cut.
Final cut.
Final
Blade
cut.
Runner.
The
We'll
final
see how
cut.
that goes.
Final
All
cut.
right, let's do one more question and call it a day.
All right, this final one comes from Devin Lott, who writes, with the success of It, would you mind if Andres Muschietti would adapt another iconic villain, i.e. Freddy Krueger?
Ooh, that's interesting, but I think that the best part about It, and there's a lot that I liked in It, is the relationship of the kids and how the losers interact with each other and kind of bond against, bullying and everything going on in Derry. There's a lot of bad stuff in Derry, clowns notwithstanding. If I was going to nitpick, I would say that it didn't quite scare me as much as I thought it might. So I'd actually rather. So I think Muschietti can do anything in the horror world he wants to. I'd kind of rather see him do a coming of age movie that doesn't necessarily involve killer clowns or evil adults or anything like that. Just having kids form relationships for the first time and growing up against some sort of odds or seeing some coming together of a unit of kids. I think he does that really well. So maybe you should just make the Sandlot sequel. How do you feel, Schnepp?
I just saw that movie. It's called It. He just did it. I would rather see him do something totally different. You're right. I mean, It is not scary in the conventional. I mean, The Conjuring is scary. It is a really good film. So I think there's a different way to look at It. I think It is a fantastic film. I said it yesterday. It reminds me of The Goonies. It has this kind of old Hollywood flavor mixed with that Stranger Things kind of vibe. So, it's a very well-made film. It's just not like when I keep hearing a lot of people say it wasn't that scary, and I've said it myself. It's creepy as all hell, though. It's super creepy, especially if clowns creep you out. But it's not like, you're not like, make it stop. There's none of that kind of stuff. I mean, I think Don't Breathe, Lights Out. There's a whole bunch of other films that we talked about that are scarier in that way. It is a really good film. So, Muschietti should be able to do whatever he wants.
Dennis, what sort of project would you like to see Muschietti tackle next?
Well, as the only person on this panel that has yet to see It,
Dennis.
I was gone
Dennis,
this weekend. I had
boy.
obligations to take care of.
Oh, boy.
So, I would like to see him to move away. I mean, just speaking speculatively, I'd like to see him move away from horror and do something different and see how his chops are there.
Perri Nemiroff, you have the final word.
Well, first off, priorities, Dennis. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm not happy. Most of all, I want to see Muschietti move right into part 2 because
Yes.
I can't imagine a part 2 without him at the helm. And I understand what the person who sent in that Twitter question is thinking with Freddy Krueger, because when you think about Freddy Krueger as a villain and you think about Pennywise, it's not the same, but it is some sort of blend between horror, manipulating what you're most afraid of, and also a little comedy too. So it does make sense to make that leap. But I want him to do It first. And with It being scary, I think it's a really interesting, like multi-layered kind of exploration of that, because I've heard so many people tell me that the movie absolutely terrified them, that they can't sleep. Then I hear other things where they're focused more on the coming of age story and it didn't really scare them, but it still stuck with them. And isn't that what Pennywise is all about? Manipulating your worst fear and trying to figure out what scares you. So I don't know. It just depends on what scares you, what kind of horror movies you like. But I think there's something that it offers to everyone, which is why it made such an insane amount of money at the box office.
I'm just thinking about what I'm going to tweet about J.J. Abrams after we're done. The chat room is really good. It really is interesting to see such a polarizing subject. The guy did bring Star Wars back to us. Like, we would not be sitting here talking about Star Wars unless J.J. Abrams was able to step up and give us new characters, bring back our favorite characters from generations ago, and give us a really good first foot forward into a new chapter in Star Wars. So everybody stop acting like he punched your mom. Jeez, let the guy make a movie.
What? People get heated on the internet about things in movies?
That sounds
No way.
crazy.
No
You
way.
mean crybabies whining about stuff on the internet? I don't
You
believe
know what? Whether you are thrilled with this JJ news or you think it's the worst play that Hollywood has ever made and you are personally offended, I'll be at the Philadelphia Punchline this weekend, Thursday through Saturday. So why don't you come on by and we'll have a conversation in person and we can share our thoughts that way. I want to thank all you guys for tuning in today regardless of what your opinions are. Thank you guys for watching the show. We will be back at 7 a.m. the rest of this week. Then we go to 9 a.m. starting next week. Set your alarm clocks accordingly. Thank you to our hardworking crew. Thank you to Adam for dimming the lights. Thank you to Jonathan Boyko for the drum roll and the breaking news and the panel of panelists. Dennis Zen, where can we find you, bud?
You guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero, on Instagram, Dennis.tzng.
Perri Nemiroff.
Twitter and Instagram at Nemiroff. Watch out for behind the scenes and bloopers. This Saturday, 2 p.m., we have another round of beer pong coming your way.
Yeah, they call him Johnny Wiseau, Jon Schnepp. Where can the kids find
What's
you?
up? Throwing sporks, forks, knives, plastic stuff on Twitter, Instagram at Jon Schnepp. Check out Heroes later.
Over there on our news desk, Natasha Martinez. Where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at NatashaLexis_.
And last but not least, Wendy Lee Zaney.
At Wendy Lee Zaney on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. And just a quick hi to Eric Sutterberg. Nice meeting you yesterday.
There you go. Congratulations, Eric. Your day has been made. Thank you guys for making all of our days here at Collider Video. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a new episode of Movie Talk.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.